Today, we break down Trevor Sikkema's brand new 2026 NFL mock draft. Let's get right into this. Trevor is a friend of the show, so always love to be able to give some good back and forth feedback whenever possible. I love his opinions on whenever I do work with him, as well as obviously when he drops something, we always like to do it. Below my face is my board. It is based on all 22 grades exclusively. I also don't want to look at this because that might be a spoiler alert, but it's also, something that I can be continuously updating. Go feel free to join the Patreon. You get to see all about 290 of the guys on there, all broken down, all 22, but end up seeing the grade breakdown specifically on the sheet, the draft board, as well as every rookie for the stock reports. I know you guys love that series. You get extended versions of that, as well as Rookie Watch, which is every single rookie that's taking a rep on offense or defense, end up basically giving them a win, loss, mediocre, or not applicable grade, and end up having a short description there. So you guys get to keep up with quick reference right there. Extended videos for positional rankings and some more stuff that's coming soon. So go join there. We have a great community already started. And so let's get into this. I want to do a trades mock draft this week, but my mom ended up coming and surprising me. So I want to be able to at least, spend some time with her. This is a quicker episode and we get to talk about Trev. So I have partnered up once again with DraftKings Sportsbooks to bring y'all an amazing offer. New customers bet $5 and get paid $300 if your bet wins in bonus bets. On top of that, get 3 months of NBA League Pass no matter what. The crown is yours. Use code HMS when signing up. Love the thrill of live betting? DraftKings has you covered. Bet live on star props and in-progress games right as they're happening. If sports betting is not yet legal in your state, do not worry. DraftKings still has you covered with their daily fantasy option. I live in the state of Texas, so this will be what I use. Make sure to use the code HMS when signing up, and a huge thank you to DraftKings once again for sponsoring this episode. New York Jets go Ty Simpson at number 1 overall, quarterback out of Alabama. Ty Simpson, for me, depending on how I'm going to decide whether it's going to be the best scheme fit or the just overall balanced grade, he's about quarterback 3 for me at the moment, and he's been doing a fantastic job. Something I will note, and he is pretty safe. And the thing I really like, Ty Simpson, again, a quarterback 3 in a class that has so much variability is not a big shocker. So again, keep that in mind. My top 2 are Fernando Mendoza and Dante Moore, spoiling for those of you guys who have who are not actually able to see my full board. But regardless, Ty is right there at QB3 at the moment. He's having a fantastic season. The one area where I do see him having some struggles is the timing of things. You'll see an out route, and he should be throwing it about a quarter second to half a second earlier. In the NFL, where guys get faster, the windows get tighter, I do think that can become a problem. And I also see him sometimes double clutching. You see him pausing. He looks, he sees the route is open, and he almost waits to confirm with his eyes and his mind at the same time. And that's something that will get worked out with time and experience. But if it doesn't, it's something to track. So I know somebody got their feathers ruffled with that before, but also I do think Ty Simpson's accuracy and precision ends up getting a little bit differentiated, whether it's on the left or the right side of the field. I think that's just human biomechanics. You're using different muscles, so you're going to have different throw results, but we're just kind of used to the guys who have ridiculously unattainable arms that are just not human. But Ty Simpson, I do think there's some things that I would want to improve with this game, but he's still doing a fantastic job, especially for this early in his starting career. So for the Jets, I think they'd probably want someone a little bit more of the scrambling type. However, not really having that option right now at the top of the draft could end up pushing their hand towards somebody who's going to be a higher floor option there with Ty Simpson. Not going to disagree with that. At 2, the Cleveland Browns go Fernando Mendoza, quarterback out of Indiana. The Browns are absolutely open to the quarterback market. People were saying that they're completely shut off. There was a team in the Arizona Cardinals that ended up, deciding to reverse course after drafting a quarterback at number 10 overall. Probably the same situation. After you end up drafting someone in the 3rd and the 5th round, you could end up probably being willing to go off of those current options. So it is very possible they go quarterback. Fernando Mendoza, to me, is the top quarterback in the class. I do think it's a little bit, he's right now my number 22 player on my board. This does value in positional value as well. So I will say if there's a player with an asterisk next to their name, they're due to fall. There's a reason why there's not many of them, because my ass has been working this past week trying to get through the guys that I think are going to fall to get them off the list. And then the guys with pluses like John Mateer are guys who I am waiting a little bit more on the health to clear up before doing a full reevaluation. But regardless, Fernando Mendoza, 22 on my big board. He is somebody that I think ended up having a red hot start to the year for the most part. Ended up, of course, peaking in that Illinois game. But he did end up having a pretty sloppy performance versus Iowa, in my opinion. And then he also ended up having some slip ups versus Oregon. So I do want to see the consistency get there. He was my QB3 coming into the year. So I do think that there certainly is some growth pains that will happen. Sometimes starting out red hot is not necessarily the best for your mid-season progression, but like sometimes you need to get kicked in the ass in order to build up that momentum towards the end of the year, which is exactly what Fernando Mendoza, I think, will end up doing. And it's great to see he can transfer from Cal to Indiana, completely different environment, completely different expectations, and still end up doing a great job. At 3, you got the Baltimore Ravens going Ruben Bain Jr., edge rusher out of Miami. He's been fantastic this year. Am I a sucker for Malachi Lawrence? Absolutely. That's my thing. Am I going to miss on it? Probably a good chance. But at the same time, I owe you guys honesty, not comfortability. If I'm going to end up going and telling you guys my opinion, I think that it's worth it to tell you guys the honest truth. And Malachi Lawrence, he right now is above Ruben Bain in true pass rush win rate. He's listed 263 with 35-inch arms. There's just aspects to his game that I think translate extremely well. He was somebody who I never thought I'd ever grade and ended up being somebody I fell in love with. So will it work out? I'm not 100% sure. At the same time, it is somebody who I believe as like a top edge rusher in the class. Ruben Bain is the best edge rusher in the class if you look at NFL translatability at the moment. My only issue with Ruben Bain, good, not great, explosiveness and speed. Some endurance questions on my end, and then the shorter arms. That's the only concerns. That's some pretty small concerns, right? Those are very manageable concerns. So I think realistically, he absolutely should be edge 1. I'm just saying, I think that there's a huge diamond in the rough in this class of Malachi Lawrence. So if you guys are understanding why I have my board the way I do. At 4, I got the Dolphins going Dante Moore, quarterback out of Oregon. I hope to God he goes back to school because I do think he needs still some more seasoning. Now, riding the hot hand could be better for his overall progression, but based on if he's going to the Dolphins, I just don't know if that's a successful organization to drop a quarterback into that's still developing. But at the same time, I mean, Dante Moore, he started out red hot versus Indiana, ended up really cooling off, and that is the bigger concern is like as the game progresses, as you're in less and less scripted plays where you have more experience, how do you end up evolving the play and playing better? And ended up having some really key mistakes, especially that last interception, definitely something that's not really excusable to defensive players like lurking right around like in that vicinity. You don't have the arm strength of that caliber to thread the needle like that. So just more so self-awareness. And then, again, in such a high pressure moment, making almost a relatively safe type of throw, not a very high reward kind of throw, but still risky without the arm to handle it. Not saying Dante Moore has a bad arm in any way, shape, or form, but you need to have an elite arm to thread the needle with 2 defenders lurking on a hitch route. So that's just the problem right there. I do think some self-awareness, which is something that comes with experience, will end up being something that can improve his stock. But for the Dolphins, I don't think this is an organization, especially if they trade away assets like Jalen Waddle, that's going to be conducive for that development. I'd be very scared for Dante Moore's future if he ends up going there. I hope I'm wrong. I mean, that's the truth. Whenever I feel bad about something or a certain player, I always hope I'm wrong because good football is always better than being right because I can end up learning from my mistakes and we have a more enjoyable game to watch. So keep that in mind as well. That's my mindset when I end up doing things like having a completely honest board. I'm willing to look like an idiot at the risk of being able to learn and be better and better. So if that's something that you guys resonate with, I'm probably your guy. If not, I respect it. There's a lot of great guys in this industry, especially Trev. So number 5, the Saints go Peter Woods out of Clemson, defensive interior. I mean, getting something that's just high floor, far from a bad idea. Peter Woods will be an asset instantly as a run defender, and I think you've seen the ceiling of him as a pass rusher. Is it turning out to be the season where Peter Woods is showing out to be the number one player in the class like some people believe? Maybe not. But for me, I honestly think that when it comes to translating to the NFL, he's working on the details of the game that I think translate at a rate that people aren't giving him credit for. And I think he's more translatable now than he was last year, even though he was more productive last year. So it's a weird thing, but there's just a difference between college production and then NFL readiness. And I think Peter Woods is becoming more and more NFL ready. And I don't think you could, I got to knock on wood for this one. I don't think you can really miss with Peter Woods. And I did not like Brian Brzee. That was just not a thing for me. So I think with Peter Woods, he's a unique talent. And I think he's one of those guys that I'm buying in on, which is rare. I'm not usually one of the guys that buy in on the unique talents because I think you need to have a very solid, unique mind to use them properly. But for Peter Woods, having such a high floor run defense ability makes it to where there's less risk. So I like it. Tennessee Titans go edge TJ Parker out of Clemson. I know that Trev still has TJ very high on his board. TJ has taken steps up on mine. I didn't like how he processed the game last year. I thought he had a lot of really good technique, still putting it together, but processing, understanding where the ball is and how to actually address the play. I had issues with that. But that's something that comes with experience, right? Coaching, experience, that usually ends up making it better. And it has gotten better. Even though, again, very similar to Peter Woods, the stats aren't there. The wins are not necessarily there. But I think the translatability is getting even more to that point. So TJ's showing out. I really do like him. If you want to believe in him as a top 10 player, I'm not going to shame you for it. That's my thought process on it. At number 7, the Cincinnati Bengals go interior offensive lineman Jennings Dunker out of Iowa. You guys know me. I'm not a Jennings Dunker believer. I know Trev is. So let's substitute. Like for me, I would say CC Mauigoa, who I know is going to be pretty damn close to this. But for me, I think of him a little bit more as a guard based on his issues from 2024. Those are just kind of things that I think will be brought up in the NFL and something that I think would be mitigated at guard. But for me, again, Jennings Dunker, also a right tackle, people believe translates to the inside. I'm going to use that mindset. Upgrading the offensive line is never a bad idea. I don't think it is ever a bad idea. Maybe it's a little expensive, right? Interior offensive line, expensive. But at the same time, after the draft ends, sure, you're stuck with the contracts, right? Guards getting paid the number 7 pick contract. It's a pretty hefty one. But you look at the roster you get. Apart from those contracts, they are all players on your team. So it doesn't really matter where you draft. Like Brock Purdy was awesome that he's the last pick of the draft, right? But right now he's just the quarterback. Money, there you go. Obviously you end up signing a contract. But the idea is, even if this is going to be a little bit of a reach, if Jennings Dunker is a damn good guard for the next 10 years, you're going to forget about this shit the moment he signs his contract for number 2. That's just the case. And you're not going to complain about paying a high price guard if they're playing like a high value guard. So there's always that counter as well. And then especially because, well, guards have gotten more expensive, but a lot of teams, when there's these low paid positions, you're not going to find them on the free market. So you have to buy in to that. I do think this guard class is actually pretty damn solid, with some guys who are tackle to guard converts. In my opinion, Austin Barber, for example. I've been on that for a while. But I think that's something where you can end up getting really good value down the board. Would I go guard this high? No. But if it ends up working out, am I going to complain? No. So that's my thought process on it. Even though I disagree with the pick, I personally would end up like understanding it depending on how they address the rest of the draft. And obviously we'd have to see when all the guys return and all that, where the strengths and weaknesses of the draft is in terms of like, how good is the day 2 group? How good's the day 3 group? Where do you need to take the value for these certain positions? And maybe some of the guards go back to school and then the guard class could be thin. There's always that chance as well where this would end up making more sense. At 8, you got the Vegas Raiders going Arvell Reese, linebacker out of The Ohio State University. I mean, I personally love this because first off, Arvell is utilized in a multitude of ways. I think this is going to be fantastic because you can use him as an edge as well. Caleb Von Chason there last year, obviously new organization pretty much in right now, but it is a team that you can end up having at least a former game plan that succeeded for somebody who is not necessarily the 265 plus. I might be fully mistaken on that. If I am, I apologize. But Arvell is somebody that you can utilize in so many different ways. And the way that they're kind of utilizing Devin White as a blitzer as well is going to be perfect for someone who has the pass rushing upside of Arvell Reese. You're just getting a good football player that is hard to find on a down by down basis, extremely strong, able to play a multitude of positions. People will throw out the Micah comp for that reason. And I don't think you're too insane when you do that. So I'll just say you're buying exclusivity with players that don't come around very often. Will end up working out. We'll have to see if the organization ends up building the right system fit for Arvell Reese at that time. At number 9, you got the Giants going Jordan Tyson, wide receiver out of Arizona State. For me, he's been locked in as the top wide receiver the whole time. Not saying anybody who has another wide receiver above him is wrong, because there are just so many damn good wide receivers in this class. You do you. I know Trev had Mekhi Lemon above Jordan Tyson at the start of the year. Oh, he's dumb. No, because Mekhi Lemon easily has a claim for the top wide receiver in the class. I just think that Jordan Tyson's a true one. And I mean, you're just kind of playing with an embarrassment of riches. People are like, oh, are you going to pay both the wide receivers? If the wide receivers are both that good, that's a damn good problem to have. All right, deal with that problem in 4 years. Stop dealing with it now. Get the best talent. And right now, what would help you guys out the most, in my opinion, especially with Malik coming off the ACL, is having another wide receiver that genuinely scares the shit out of a defense. Helps out your quarterback, helps out your run game as well. Can't stack the box if they already know that Jordan Tyson and Malik Neighbors are out there. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to go one-on-one with these guys? So I really do love it right there. It's a pick that I've made several times. Cardinals at number 10 to go tackle Spencer Fano out of Utah. Right tackle, I love the fit. This is my dream selection for the Cardinals. Like Spencer, I ended up regrading him. There are some things, especially during that Texas Tech game, that I did think could have him be pushed to the inside. But at the same time, I do think he is still a high tier starting tackle. And obviously a ferocious run blocker. So very big fan of this pick right here. Not much more to say. Number 11, the Texans go CC Mauigoa, tackle, in my opinion, / guard out of Miami. Curious to see. So right tackle, yeah, obviously I'm curious. He's only given up. So there's nothing talking about him potentially moving to the inside. At the same time, I do think, again, I talked about it earlier, some of the issues he's had in the past, I think are like really mitigated at guard. So if you want to look at risk management, there's still that upside of him being a really solid guard, which raises the floor of the pick. And for a team that needs offensive line help, I like the pick. I really do. Even though I'm lower on CC Mauigoa, I still love the fit. And I love the fact that the Texans have pretty much no way, unless CC is just that bad, which I don't think he is. I don't think there's a route for this to really fail. Maybe not be worth it, but to fail, I don't think so. Cowboys go Caleb Downs, defensive back out of Ohio State at number 12. Very hard to say that he would slip to this point. It is a lower value position. To me, he's still the top player in the class. Has he been fully reevaluated? No. Have I watched Ohio State every week? Yes. Am I concerned of his grade right now based on what ended up happening versus Illinois? Yes. I mean, he just ended up allowing 7 receptions on 8 targets. So there is a little bit of a concern there. Maybe he'll end up falling to number 5, number 6, number 7, but he is still somebody who I have a ton of faith in, has been successful year over year. And, now it's like he's kind of just one of a lot of very talented players on Ohio State. And it always has been that case, but it just feels now more than ever like there's not a legitimate weak point on Ohio State that teams can utilize at all. Like the linebackers are top tier. The defensive front, you see Cade McDonald stepping up. Even the edge rusher, you'd think it's kind of weak. And then you see Arvell Reese taking reps there. Caden Curry, who has shorter arms, still doing really good. And then Kenyatta Jackson is still on his progression step. This Ohio State team just doesn't have very many ways to avoid throwing at Caleb Downs. And so I think that's why we're seeing a little bit more of the shift towards Caleb compared to the past. So maybe that's the reason why. Maybe it's not. But Caleb Downs still, in my opinion, a fantastic option for the Cowboys. You're buying in on somebody who I think is going to be a big contributor to your defense. 13, the Panthers go cornerback Mansour Delane out of LSU. Corner one for me coming into the year, ended up sticking that way, regraded him. So spoiler alert, he is at number 7 overall on my board currently. Again, if Caleb Downs ends up slipping, could be even higher. I think he's become much better as a coverage corner as well. And man coverage, I didn't even expect this because he's showing like he has some wheels too. He's faster than, in my opinion, he was at Virginia Tech. But this is just somebody who is utilizing physicality well. There's a rep this past week, if I'm not mistaken, that he ended up, it was a slot fade, and it was just one of the most beautiful way, like it was one of the most beautiful defenses of a slot fade off the line I've ever seen. So I'm just like, I'm all in. Mansour Delane, I think if you take him at 13, you're not going to complain at all. And this is somebody who I had in my cornerback 30 range when he was mid-season at Virginia Tech. The moment I ended up watching how he ended off the season and seeing him go to LSU, something in my gut said, that clicks. That's the style of player going to the right system, and he's already showing that progression through the year when he was actually used as a corner more. And I was buying in, and I'm very happy. Ended up not biting me in the ass. But Panthers at 13 doing that, great move. Chiefs at 14 go Kenyon Sadiq, tight end of Oregon. I made this pick myself, not going to labor too much on this. It's a team that cares about their tight end, likes to get them in open space, and likes them creating after the catch. And Kenyon Sadiq is an underrated blocker. A little bit underwhelming this year, but at the same time, this is still somebody that we know what the foundation is, and we know the role in this offense. It'll be a big one. At 15, you got the Commanders going edge David Bailey out of Texas Tech. I regraded David Bailey. If I'm going to be honest, he's more productive this year. I don't know if he's as good as he was at Stanford last year. It sounds ludicrous to say that. And he's been fantastic this year. In terms of the college player, 1,000 times better. But when it comes to the NFL translatability, he's been adding on weight as well. He was down I believe the 230 range a couple years ago. He doesn't look nearly as explosive. He doesn't look nearly as flashy. And he's still damn good. But I have him on the tier of Cassius Howell. And I'm a little bit lower on Cassius Howell than some people. I've regraded him as well. So if you guys do follow on the Patreon, you can end up seeing the grades and the full breakdown there. But David Bailey, to me, is somebody that is consistently reliable, which is probably what a team like the Commanders is looking for. So it's fine with taking him at 15. But I'm just giving you guys a little insight to what my current opinion is. I do think the high-level wins are not there at the NFL translatable rate. So keep that in mind, but I still think David Bailey's fantastic. A little bit worried about the run defense more this year than it was last year. Don't really understand why he would take a regression step that way, but I think it's because he's more of a full-time edge rusher than being more so of an outside linebacker. At number 16, the Bears go Cassius Howell. So, it makes sense. Trev has Cassius Howell, David Bailey, similar tier. So do I. It's just, what do you value? What do you not? Really like Cassius Howell, by the way. He has under 31-inch arms, confirmed. Not a fan of that. However, I've never seen a man with under 31-inch arms somehow long arm tackles. He finds a way. And he has a really good run anchor as well. Because arm length is an issue in the NFL when, the guys are keeping you at range, right? But I think he does a very good job. Now, do I think it would fit the Bears and how they end up? Historically, DA has loved 6'5 plus, 260 plus. Howell doesn't fit that. 6'2", 248. I don't think that's a good fit. Do I think it's a good player if they end up going this route and would end up complementing what they have? Absolutely. But in terms of the realistic side, I don't know if it actually fits schematically. But I do think that Cassius Howell's a very good player, great first step, great bend. There's a lot of things to love about him. I do think, again, with the arm length, with it being sub 250, I do have a bit of a concern that he will end up having to be utilized as more of a designated pass rusher, which brings a lot less value. But he is good versus the run. The question is, can he continue being that good versus NFL tackles? And that's the question I'm really going to be looking at all year long. At 17, the Rams go Colton Hood, cornerback out of Tennessee. Love Colton Hood's progression this year. Ended up showing up to Tennessee in the middle of the offseason, ended up taking over their number one corner role while their number one corner, Jamal McCoy, was out. I think this is a fantastic move, and Colton Hood's taken a progression step while not being there for a full offseason. It's fantastic. I mean, really has broken out and has shown that he is possibly worth a first round pick. At 18, the Vikings go Jeremiah Love, running back out of Notre Dame. I mean, to be honest, the running back core for the Vikings is not as solidified as the contracts might say it should be. This is not going to be an end of the world situation. And JJ's showing he might need some more time to develop, obviously health wise as well. Want to give him less contact with the defenders. So being able to establish a more solid run game with a younger, more explosive back, not the worst thing in the world. Would I go corner? Yes. But at the same time, I'm not going to fully disagree with the idea of going after Jeremiah Love at 18. At number 19, the Buffalo Bills go edge rusher Romello Height out of Texas A&M. I'm a bit lower on Romello because, again, very similar to what I was talking about earlier with Cassius, but Cassius is a much better run defender. He just has, again, the arm length issues. I think Romello is a designated pass rusher. To me, those carry a lot less weight. And then when you look at how the Bills have constructed their edge core and where they're having success, they seem to like the bigger edges. To me, Keldrick Falk would be a little bit more up my alley for what I'd want for the Bills with the edge rushers on the board. Romello is still a very good player, very flashy. To me, disappears a little bit too much, but still a very talented edge rusher. I think this is supposed to say Texas Tech, but that's okay. I make much bigger mistakes. So edge rusher out of Texas Tech going to the Bills. Again, that's where I would end up putting my 2 cents. At 20, the Denver Broncos go Mekhi Lemon, wide receiver out of USC. It's a pick that I've made as well. Sometimes you just got to go best player available. We kind of wanted Emeka Ibuka to him last year. Granted, they ended up making a damn good pick in Amari and Hampton. But getting damn good players is never a bad thing, especially with how quickly these wide receivers are translating. This could end up helping out Bo Nix a ton and helping out the offensive progression a ton. So not going to shame that at all. Cleveland Browns go Caden Proctor, guard/tackle out of Alabama at 21. They like measurables. This fits exactly what they've done in the past. So schematically speaking, this makes a ton of sense. Do I think Caden's worth that? Probably not, because I don't trust the Browns to develop said talent. I think it's a very realistic pick. I think it's a good pick for the realistic side. I think in terms of what would be best for Caden, maybe I would value something else, a different location. You could talk about the Rams. I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to more so talk about the Niners. I love the idea of him playing guard short term as he learns from Trent Williams. That's like the fantasy, but we'll see about it. I do think this is a very realistic pick, though. I just don't know if it end up working out. At number 22, the Rams go Carnell Tate, wide receiver out of The Ohio State University. Again, wide receivers are going to be at a premium this year because of the fact that we're seeing so many guys take that step instantly. And I think that's going to put an extra value on the wide receiver position with a lot of guys who have some of the similar skill sets to the guys who are translating quickly. Like Carnell Tate is one of them. For the Rams, I do not disagree with this at all. If he's there, I'm not going to shame him at all. Great pickup. At number 23, you got the Lions going R. Mason Thomas, edge rusher out of Oklahoma. I think Trev likes the DPRs. I mean, I respect it. It's so fun to watch these guys who are absolute craftsmen just end up going and, pretty much doing a beautiful Picasso painting with how they end up rushing a pass rusher or rushing the quarterback, excuse me. But, I mean, again, just a little bit undersized, sub 32-inch arms. I just don't think realistically we'll be seeing those guys in the first round as they have to be the exception, not the rule. And it's just very tough to justify that, in my opinion. But for the Lions, I mean, if they end up eventually, I think at round 2, you could start discussing this for me where I'd feel comfortable. Am I going to complain? No, because R. Mason Thomas is a damn good pass rusher. And I don't think he's a horrible run defender, but it's just you're talking about someone a little bit undersized in the NFL. What's their role? I think it's going to be a little more of a pass rusher, which, again, with the arm length concerns, I think limits the potential impact. But I still think it's a damn good player. At 24, the Seahawks go Chris Brazzell II, wide receiver out of Tennessee. He fits perfectly into a Kubiak system. This is Marquez Valdez-Scantling. It makes a ton of sense. I've done this in round 2, so that's just where my head is at in terms of the value of Chris. But I made this pick. It fits. It makes sense. A little early for me, but it makes sense. Patriots go Jermod McCoy, cornerback out of Tennessee at 25. I'll put my foot down a little bit on this one. I don't think necessarily this is also, by the way, where if you want to go after someone who's a little bit on the DPR side, I think that fits a little bit more of what they've been trying to target. But I don't think cornerback's that big of a concern. I used to, and then after like talking with you guys, reevaluating my concerns, I do think there's some good cornerback talent on the Patriots in terms of depth that is a little bit underappreciated. Like at this point, I'd probably be looking at still at wide receiver, someone like Chris Bell, Denzel Boston, getting a true one for Drake May personally. That's where my head's at with that. At 26, the Chargers go Vega Ione, a guard out of Penn State. It's a pick I believe I've made before. I at least have suggested it. Vega is an absolute monster. He took a huge step up in pass protection this year. He was already a high anchor, very strong run blocker, but the pass blocking took a different step this year to a whole new level. I'm personally in support of this if they can end up finding someone to be the longer term center. At 27, the Niners end up going Joshua Josephs, edge rusher out of Tennessee. There's an S on the end of that. But getting a true DPR is never a bad idea. You have the high floor run defending style edges. Getting someone who's a designated pass rusher who also is pretty damn good versus the run, just 240, is I love it. I mean, Joshua Joseph's fantastic. We're already seeing with James Pierce Jr., his translatability, same system, former teammate, and Joshua Josephs has near 35-inch arms, something that JPJ did not have. So I actually really like the fit. At 28, get the Eagles going Keldrick Falk, edge rusher out of Auburn. High floor edge, feels very, very much like what they ended up, unfortunately, losing to retirement recently. But yeah, I think this is right on the money for what you guys should be looking for. Just build a bit more stability for the run defense. And then you also have someone who could be kicking inside a little bit, be a little bit more like a BG. At 29, and yes, I know a lot of people like Ty Robinson. I'm not fully sold, so that's why I'm still open to that. 29, you got the Cowboys going Caden McDonald, defensive interior out of Ohio State. I think this is an amazing move. He's young, explosive, high floor run defender, something y'all don't have. And then on top of that, he's actually improved as a pass rusher too. Caden McDonald's my defensive interior 8 coming into the year. And as he's going to be reevaluated, he is obviously going to be taking a huge step up. I'm very happy with finding Caden McDonald early, and I'm excited to continue finding more and more with his game as it continues to progress. So fantastic defensive interior, definitely somebody you want to keep an eye on. At number 30, you got the Steelers going Denzel Boston, wide receiver out of Washington. As a Steelers fan, I fully support this. This was made before last night, by the way. So keep that in mind. This was dropped yesterday. I said brand new. It's within a day. All right. Give a man a 48-hour time span. But Denzel Boston's a great wide receiver. To me, I was a little bit lower on him during the beginning of the year, and I think he's really progressed on the finer details. I'm a no-nonsense guy. I don't like to try to project things because that's not my forte. My forte is understanding what you're doing and then understanding a path for you to get there. So I'll say, hey, I think Denzel Boston has a lot of areas to work on. That puts him at this spot. But I think he should be here. But I'll tell you guys, this is my ranking for him while saying I hope he's here. And he's gotten beyond that. I think he's a fantastic player with some elements of Tetro McMillan to his game. For the Steelers, I think it works perfectly with the fact that we need somebody to be a reliable two. And I'm not afraid of guys kind of taking a little bit of the overlap and role. If I'm going to be honest, having two really good wide receivers do the same thing is better than just one. And right now, it's kind of what we have. So Denzel Boston, again, because I know big, deep threat, reliable hands, actually reliable after the catch. Denzel Boston able to do some returns. I think this is an amazing move. I fully support it. Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 31 go linebacker Sonny Styles out of The Ohio State University. It's a pick I've made before. You guys know me. Fully support it. Normally, I'll go David Bailey, but that's usually because the Buccaneers are playing or a little bit higher in the draft order. So big fan of that right there. Great selection with Sonny Styles. Number 32, the Indianapolis Colts end off this draft with linebacker CJ Allen out of Georgia. I got to go regrade him. I thought he was an amazing thumper in the run game coming into the year. I thought he was a little bit one-dimensional in that aspect, and I still have that gut feeling. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but I also would love a higher ceiling edge rusher to bring in with the amount of contracts that are coming up and the fact that JT Tumalau is not being used. I'm a little bit more on that side, but linebacker, far from a position that is free of being wanted. And I just not a huge fan of taking too many linebackers in the first. I have the two guys I feel pretty comfortable with right now, even though I love Kyle Lewis. I do think that realistically, he's a day 2 guy. So keep that in mind. Thank you again for watching, and huge shout out to Trev. For a lot of the mock drafts, they're not good. This is one where you can tell I'm not disagreeing with a lot of stuff. Like, it makes sense. So keep that in mind, especially if you guys don't like a player. Think about it through the lens, like for CJ Allen, like, is a linebacker reasonable if a guy's there? Yes. He likes CJ Allen more than I do. So would I select CJ Allen? No. Do I understand why he would? Yes. Think about it that way. And then I think a lot of things, especially in this industry that's so subjective, end up becoming a lot more palatable. But that's the video. Thank you again for watching. Love you. See you later. Peace.